little bit of a choose your own adventure beginning here. So, a supported back bend, and you might do that with a little blanket rolled under your chest below your armpits. You might do it with a bigger back bend if you want to use a bolster or a block. And if you prefer, you could even roll something up or use a bolster long ways instead of horizontally. And you could take a back bend like this, and maybe a Supta Baddha Konasana or straight legs. So lots of options. And you could also take a back bend with the bolster or the pillow or the block or the blanket underneath your pelvis. So take a moment, do your wiggle around, see what's calling you, where you feel like you can settle and soften and spread out. There's no hurry. When you make the little adjustments, as we do, just notice each one, be mindful. Let each adjustment be tender, be aware. And when you do feel like you found a place for yourself, then go ahead and spill into your body. Can you inhabit all of yourself? Sometimes I even imagine that I'm actually standing next to my body and I climb in and inhabit every inch of it, ooze into the finger and toe tips, spread into the back of the body. Feel the warmth in the front of the body. And as you spread and ooze and sink and rest, just feeling around your face this evening. Maybe you could let something, anything on your face soften a bit. The outer surface or the inside, the jaw, the tongue, the eyeballs. There's a beautiful Zen story. I don't remember it exactly, but there's a Zen master, and one of his students comes to see him. The Zen master has been ill, and the student comes to visit, and he says, "How are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing?" And the Zen master just says, "Sun face Buddha, moon face Buddha." Sun face Buddha, moon face Buddha. And lots of stories and talks about what that could mean. But essentially, it's about inclusivity. It's that we're both. And so, whatever's showing up for you, whether you're sun face Buddha tonight or whether you're moon face Buddha, to let it be okay as it is, because they're both Buddha, right? That's kind of the point. Sun face or moon face, they're both Buddha. And can you just stay with whatever is showing up? When Joan Halifax talks about this story, she's really cute. She says, "If I'm too moon face Buddha, I'll watch a puppy video and I'll sun face Buddha myself." But, the world can't be all puppy and kitty videos. Right? Can we just stay with our sun faceness or our moon faceness? Can we stay with it just as it is? Whatever's showing up, that's our reality. And the truth of impermanence always prevails. So can you feel the support of whatever is beneath you? Let your skin melt over it. Let your bones drape over it. Let your fluids wash over the blanket, the block, the ground, whatever it is. Give up the holding back and spread out. Take one more breath, nice and long and slow, all the way in, and follow it all the way out. And then you can start to make your way up to sitting. Take your time though. We're gonna do this practice tonight. We're gonna do a like a hip mandala. So we're gonna do all around the hips, like the inside, the outsides, the backs, and the fronts, and do it in a big circle. And oh, hi, Lemon. and thinking about impermanence made me think about mandalas and the beautiful practice of making these mandalas, right? These really intricate things, and then just blowing them away. All this work. The Dalai Lama says if you do, I think it's 10,000, you do 10,000 mandalas and 10,000 mudras, then maybe your mind is like starting to get prepared for enlightenment. He says if you do 10,000, that means at least one of them in there is going to be good. He's so funny. But let's do so. This is a little bit complicated mudra, but I think it's really fun. It's called Mandala Offering Mudra. And so you're going to take your hands and let's see if you can see, you're going to interlace them, palms facing up. Okay. And then you're going to take your pointer fingers and fold them over your, what is that? Your middle finger. Fold. So you're basically pressing your middle finger down with your pointers. And then your thumbs are going to grab the tips. I'm going to get the inside tip, the finger pad of your pinky finger, and press that down. And then stick the backs of your ring fingers together. Does that make any sense? I know it's a crazy one. I'm going to do it one more time for you from the beginning. So fingers all the way interlaced, all fingers, and then free your pointers this way and wrap them over your middle fingers. So you're pinning the middle finger down with your pointer, and then you're using the thumbs to kind of pin down the pinky fingers, and then you got to extricate your fourth finger and touch the backs of them together. So what you end up with, and don't worry if you didn't get it, you know it's a really funky one, but what it's meant to look like is a mountain in the center, and it's supposed to have four continents around either side of it. And many of the mandalas that are created even now and in ancient times, made with all the colorful sand, have this shape. There's a center mountain, and then there's these four areas spread out around it. And so this is the mandala offering mudra. You can let it go, and no worries if you didn't get it. I know it took me a long time to get that one. So shake your hands out a little bit. And even, just thinking about it, just the intention is enough. So we're going to start with a dragonfly today. So our legs open in a straddle, and you can gather props if you like to have them. My other thought today, lots of thoughts about this class. The other thought was that we might hold things just a little bit longer this evening. I was thinking 6-minute holds versus we usually do like a 4, sometimes a 5. So that said, if at any point it becomes stressful, come on out, do your rinse off, take your little breather in between earlier if you need it. Okay, so dragonfly, legs in a straddle, and we're going to go right through the center because we're starting with the inner hips, the groin area this evening. Let your head soften downward, the tops of your shoulders empty a bit. Sometimes in this one, I have to kind of wag and wiggle my feet a little bit to get my legs to really let go all the way up to the hip creases. If you need a little wiggle or shake or rock, great. And then let your sun face or your moon face soften. You might notice what arises. Sensation, of course, but if there are stories, emotions, thoughts, whatever arises, can you welcome it? One thing we practiced in this class before is the welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. And it's all part of sun face, moon face. All mixed together. Would it be possible to sink a little deeper to inhabit even more of the shape? Spread from the inside out like honey melting. Last minute or so here. Feel into the layers of your body. Allow your outer layer to become porous, velvety, layer just beneath your skin to be cloud like, fluffy, soft, layer of your muscles to ungrip and spread out. Imagine the fibers of your muscles moving away from each other. The layer of your blood, smooth, unimpeded flow. And the layer of your bones, your deepest layer. And your skeleton unglue just a bit. coming out. Take your time. That was 6 minutes. And so give yourself adequate time to recover as you come out. We could windshield wiper, of course. Have you ever done a class where we don't do that? No, maybe that would be a challenge for me to try to come up with one. But any other way. And if you just want to be still, sometimes after a really long hold, it can be nice just to lay down, just to sit. So as you wish, but you got a little time here. Let it soak in, let it soak right in from the skin to the bones. And just notice what feels more bright, more sparkly. Do you feel any tingling anywhere? Right when we compress for so long and then we release, and all the blood and fluid and energy moves through, that's what creates that tingling. So just see if you can find any. And if you can't, that's okay. We're going to take a left knee forward pigeon, a sleeping swan as our next one. Left, just because we always start with the right. So I thought, let's start with the left today. So if that doesn't work for your knees, ankles, hips, any part of you, you can always take it on your back, left ankle hooked over right knee, foot on the floor, or you can reach underneath your leg. But otherwise, you'll be with your left knee forward, and any variation on the sleeping swan. You could gather props. I love a block or a bolster, sometimes under the head. Sometimes one under the head, one under the chest can be nice. So gather what you need so that you can be here for a few minutes. We're going to try 6 minutes. It's already been half a minute. So settle in. Let your moon face soften again, or your sun face. They're the same, the sun face, the moon face, same Buddha. I was thinking about Susan Cain, who wrote that incredible book, Bittersweet, Bittersweet. And in another quote, I won't get it just right, but she says something like about how she came to realize that her sorrow creates her joy, and her joy is a necessary part, or is an intrinsic part of her sorrow, that they're always wrapped together. This idea of inclusivity, right? Welcome it all. So I was last couple days been going to wake in a funeral for one of my son's friend's mothers. Really tragic. Like, she died in a really tragic way, and it's really rough. And my son wanted to go and support his friend, which was so beautiful to see that in my child, step up like that. And I drove him to the wake last night, and was sitting in my car watching, and all these boys came, these like tough, they're 16 years old, so they're like always want to be so cool and so tough and like never show emotion, or just like teenagers. And to watch this gang of big teenage boys all dressed in black surround their friend, and like the beauty of that just like cracked my heart wide open. And it's just an example, right, of the beauty that we can find in the middle of even the most profound tragedy, the deepest grief. There are glimmers if you can open up to them. So even when you're in your mooniest moon phase, the sun is there somewhere. Feel the compression here. Where is it? Feel it and imagine it just seeping into your tissues. Let your body gratefully absorb the compression. And of course, if it's too much, back off. But if you can, you find that discomfort, that place where it's the strongest, and see if you can be there without reacting. Maybe even lean into it gently. Last few moments here, just look around and soften what might be willing to soften just a little more. Check in with belly, hands, mouth, shoulders. And coming out of this one, perhaps just you might spill onto your back if that feels good. Have a mini Shavasana rest or anything else that you desire. Crave more movement, you can do a down dog or hands and knees, move a bit. Shimmer, the afterglow after that one, huh? The deeper the compression, the brighter the shimmer afterwards. So we did the inside of the hips, the groin, inner thighs. And we did the outside of the left hip. Now we're going to go around to the back. And for that, we'll do caterpillar. And so, in the most luxurious way, in your very easy Sunday drive, no hurry kind of way, coming to a seat. If you need more time, of course, take more time. In the in between, when you're ready, legs are long, and you can start to pour yourself down over your long legs. Take props under your hands, arms, elbows if you like. You can slide arms under the backs of your knees, lower thighs area. You can use a blanket or bolster for support anywhere that you need it. There's kind of no wrong way to add a prop here if you want one. And then let your head fall. Let your back round. Feel the skin of your back stretch. The aliveness of your back. Feel your back breathing. So there's this beautiful story about something that happened in Sarajevo in the 90s. I don't know if you all are old enough to remember that, but in the 90s, there was a big civil war. And, it was really quite terrible what was happening there. And, the siege was so bad that people, they were starving and they'd have to leave their houses to try to find bread for their families. But sometimes, as soon as they left their house, they'd be killed, they'd be shot. And in the middle of all of this happening, this building is bombed. And right next to the building that's bombed is the apartment building of the lead cellist of the Sarajevo Orchestra. And this guy named Vedran Smilovic, he helped take care of the wounded. He's out like helping all day. And when he gets back home, he puts on a tuxedo. Okay, now mind you, this is in the middle of a civil war where there's just murder and mayhem everywhere. He puts on his tuxedo, dressed like he's about to perform on stage, and he sits down in the middle of the rubble that killed 22 people. As if he has all the time in the world, he sits down and he takes out his cello and he plays this beautiful tune. It's called the Albinoni in G minor. And he plays every day. He goes back every day for 22 days in honor of the 22 people who died. And every day he sat in the middle of the city, in the middle of the snipers and the bombs. And he played this gorgeous, haunting music. And, I don't need to say much more about that. Maybe I'll send you the song, piece. Take a look around your body and just notice where any defensiveness might be. Just be curious about it. You might welcome it, talk to it. So what are you trying to tell me? Maybe it's not a conversation with words. Maybe it's just witnessing. Maybe that's all it needed. You feel the layers of letting go that happen in this practice. And for me, sometimes it's layers of letting go and then layers of tightening again. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's fine, right? But just keep inviting another layer, another 5-10% softening. Invite your sun or moon face to slowly float up towards the stars, coming out of this forward fold gently to move or to be still as you like. Be with whatever's arising, sensations or otherwise. Pay attention to what's happening inside you, your bones, your joints, your skin. Notice when it starts to quiet. As it feels quiet enough, then you can take your pigeon on the right side, your sleeping swan with the right knee forward, or you're on your back, right ankle to knee, or hugging behind the thigh. Any variation, any props, doesn't have to be exactly the same as the other side. And you bring your mind into your belly and let your belly soften and the breath open it really 3-dimensionally. Let your organs relax. And invite gravity in. There's no cell in your body, trillions of cells inside you, all working together to make you, to make things work and move and breathe and function. And what a miracle. Of all the trillions of cells, there's not one that's immune to gravity. Let all of your trillions of cells give in to gravity. A little more than halfway here. You need to shift or snuggle, or if there's a way that you might want to deepen what you're experiencing, you can. And you can stay quiet and still just as you are and just keep spreading from the inside out. Love the practice. I can't remember where I heard it. There was some podcast that had these little meditations. I could find it again. And one of them, there was a man on it, and he offered this practice of recognize, allow, and soften. And it's so useful that, especially in a practice like this, that whatever might come up here, if a thought bubbles up, story, concern, recognize. Oh, hi, there you are. I see you. Allow. You're part of what's happening. You're included. Include it. And then just soften. Just make yourself a little more spacious. Recognize, allow, soften. The same as before, as you exit this one, you might just lie on your back for a bit and let everything pulse and resonate and move through your joints, pathways. But if you want to move, please move. Inside the hips, the outer left, the back, the outer right. And now we're going to move to the front. While we bring it all for full circle and come back to the inside. So for the front, you don't have to move yet. Just tell you where we're going. We're going to take a pontoon. And so this is where a block or a bolster or a pillow would be really nice to have it underneath your sacrum. And then pontoon is like, kind of like a canoe, right? So I like mine. I usually put it on the medium side. I have it horizontally, but if you want it on low side, that's great. And I don't recommend the tallest setting. It's just a little too wobbly, but try to get it in a place that feels really supportive, like you're not going to topple over. And then once you get there, you can extend your legs out, and arms can do whatever you want. Sometimes I like to reach them overhead, maybe clasp opposite elbows or just let them dangle. If that's a lot on your shoulders, go ahead and bring them down. And whatever your legs, like my legs externally rotate a lot just naturally, so I let them do that here. Let your legs be your legs. But if it's not comfortable, if you want them more neutral, you could always put a sandbag or a blanket or a pillow on your ankles to keep them in place. But I like to let them just do what they want to do. So finding this spaciousness in the front of the hip crease here. I mean, this area, how often does it get to do this? Like, come on, right? All the time. It's scrunched up. We sit, we sit, we sit. And even when we stand, it's not getting space. And so, the breathing room. The breathing room for the front of your hips. It's just so necessary. Imagine in the front of your pelvis, the tops of your thighs, your hip creases, even your groin, that it's just like sky, that it's just expansive and soft and fluffy and floating and spacious. Invite a really lovely weightiness to the back of your heart and the back of your skull, into the center of your palms, a feeling of heaviness. And just notice where you're holding on, where you're engaged, where you're gripping, just out of habit, or where you just don't need to be right now. The great Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, an activist, social justice warrior. Thich Nhat Hanh talked about a blue lotus that only blooms in the middle of a sea of fire. Imagine that, picture that as vibrantly blue lotus flower, petals unfolding in the middle of a sea of fire. Meaning that for us, if we don't turn away from our own sea of fire, right? If we don't turn to our addictions to numb us, if we can sit with whatever it is, the pain, the dissatisfaction, the grief, the fear, in the sea of fire, it becomes the sea of our own transformation. And then we too can bloom like the lotus. This is Buddhism to Buddhism and Yin Yoga, very similar in that these practices are about waking up. They're gentle, quiet, but about waking up, not about being passive or dull, about not numbing and avoiding and falling into mindlessness. Right? If we can welcome our moon face or sun face, whatever it is, that's it. That's it. Sun face or moon face, welcome what is. So go ahead and you can start to bend your knees and walk your feet in. Take your time, bring your feet to the earth, feel the ground beneath you, press into it, take the block or blanket or whatever you've got out from underneath your hips. Empty your spine into the ground, let your belly soften again. Notice how your body feels. Notice any sense of vulnerability, spaciousness. How happy the front of your hips must be right now. Ah, so you got options for the last one. We're going to bring it all full circle and come back to the inside of our hips, inner thighs, groin, inner legs area. And you can take either or both, really, a child, a tadpole. You might even take it into a frog, right? So big toes together and your knees hip width or a little wider would be child's pose. Any props, of course, as you like. If you want to take it more wide with the knees, right? It's turning a little more froggy. And then to bring it into full on frog, you move your feet away from each other and take frog pose. And of course, here props could be really friendly. Or you can hang out like I am, just have your elbows on the ground and let your head dangle and try to soften what you can right into the sea of fire, right? And blue lotus only blooms in the middle of a sea of fire. But can you be with your own sea of fire, but try not to react? Imagine yourself even like a flower in the middle of fire, and you just stay soft and slow, not freaking out, just petals unfolding little by little. We're not going to hold this one for 6 minutes, by the way. This is Khalil Gibran poem. Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the self same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? And is not the lute that soothes your spirit the very wood that was hollowed with knives? When you're joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find that is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you're sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you're weeping for that which has been your delight. Some of you say joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nah, sorrow is the greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Go ahead and come on out if you haven't already, and it's time to rest. beginning to call yourself back. The breath that sweeps through the whole house of you, every room. Imagine your pores opening up like windows. Drink the breath in. If you come up, as you come up, a simpler mudra to finish with, a lotus, heels of the hands together, thumb sides touch, pinky sides touch, middle three fingers of each hand open into this blossoming blue lotus in the middle of a sea of fire. We'll take one Om, breathing in. Om. Hold the petals of your lotus together and take a bow.